suspect identified as Black Mask. Repeat, code 10 suspect is Black Mask.
Tonight, we're making some changes. Some big changes.
Lucas, I don't know if you know this, but on my weekends, I am the Batman.
Isn't that what video games are all about? Is so that we can be someone other than ourselves on the weekends?
Essentially. Yes, guys, here is the review for Batman Arkham Origins.
Bum, bum, bum.
And we're going to structure this review sort of focusing on story, gameplay, and presentation. So, Lucas, you haven't played this. I have. You're going to perform the role of asking me pestering questions.
Like I did last time. Let's do it.
All right.
Start us off.
So, Batman Arkham Origins is not by the same studio that did Arkham City and Arkham Asylum. No, it's the previous two games were done by Rocksteady, and this is just done by Warner Brother Games, Montreal, I think. And yeah, it's jumping back in time now. We are in the second year of Batman's time as the Caped Crusader, and it's really interesting to see what they do with it. It's somewhat interesting to see what they do with the storyline, because they're sort of ignoring the whole Batman Year One comic book, which like established. Have you've seen or watched that, right? Batman Year One.
Mm-hmm.
So
a while, but yeah,
it's sort of ignoring that and creating its own origin. Like obviously Bruce Wayne's been Batman for a while now, but he's still like a very brash kind of person, sort of filled with a bit of anger, obviously over his parents. But he's back in Gotham, and the Black Mask has essentially hired 8 assassins to kill the Batman, because he's getting in on his turf and causing trouble, and it spirals out from there. And it's interesting to see, like, there's all your favorites, like Penguin, the Joker makes a very hefty appearance in the game. Deathstroke's there, and Black Mask, obviously, he's a smaller villain, but like he's the biggest small villain, I would say, in Batman's universe.
He's kind of like the brains of the operation. Really?
He's like a really evil mobster, essentially. No, not really any superpowers to my knowledge. And yeah, and it's Christmas night in Gotham City. And
so what's like the newest thing? What's like the big thing that separates this one from the last ones that should really make people pick it up?
Story-wise?
No, just like the game in general, story, gameplay.
Well, that's what I'm experiencing with this game, is a sense of sameness. You see it all the time in like third installments of series.
Yeah.
The first one establishes a great like gimmick or hook, and the second one fleshes it out to make it a masterpiece. And Arkham City was a really good game. Arkham Origins, however, in many aspects is kind of a, I don't want to say throwaway installment, but after
kind of just like a big update, really, kind of like a big expansion pack of sorts. Because I know what you're talking about. Because it really felt like that, like Assassin's Creed. Like the first, like you said, the first one's really cool. It sets itself apart from other games, and people are like, "Wow, this is a really cool concept." And then the second one, they really capitalize on it because they have that foundation of what kind of a game they want to make.
Absolutely.
And they have all this feedback from all these people who bought the game. And then the second one's amazing. And then the third
something
one
always goes wrong with
and
the
then like
third,
Assassin's Creed
almost
Brotherhood
everywhere.
just felt like a big expansion. And then Revelations, I got 5 minutes into it and quit.
Yeah. That's sort of how I feel with, like, the story isn't really gripping me as much. Like the villains that they toss at you, like, they're D-list villains. You have Deathstroke is like the coolest among them. Guess how long he's in this game for?
Oh, he's a short
A
villain?
boss fight.
Oh, no.
And I mean, they might, like, maybe they'll throw more in with DLC.
The game?
Yeah, I basically.
Okay, so there's no like possibility of him coming in later in the game.
Well, he's tied up and done for, and it's the story eventually devolves into Joker makes his appearance, and he's brand new. He's actually voiced by interesting thing to note for the game is that it's almost an entirely new voice cast, because Kevin Conroy didn't come back for Batman. Mark Hamill has basically how should I say this? He's wiped off the makeup for the Joker. He at least for the game series, I don't know what his intentions are for like the animated stuff. And they both do, thank God, an admirable job. The new voice actor for Batman sort of captures the angry sense of, you know, how young and new he is at this, while still sort of sounding like Kevin Conroy. I really didn't notice too huge of a difference. But then again, like, Batman isn't the deepest character. He's just, I am the Knight.
Yeah. He's just
tell me where he is.
Kicks butt all
Swear
over
to
Gotham.
me. And
brings evildoers to their knees.
Yeah. And the Joker actually, like, that could have been the worst ever, because Mark Hamill is a god among voice actors for his role as the Joker. He blew everyone away with how he, that cackle, that iconic cackle of his. And Troy Baker, who you may know as the voice of was it Booker DeWitt from BioShock Infinite,
right.
And he was also Joel in The Last of Us.
Is he the same guy who literally has done like the protagonist for like 3/4 of the games in the last 5 years?
Nope, that is I know you're thinking of Nathan Drake with that's oh,
it's
okay.
that one guy.
It's not that guy though, and I'm shocked that I've suddenly forgotten his name, because
as soon as you figure it out,
Nolan North.
Yeah,
I was like in. But yeah, Troy Baker does a pretty good job. He gives a younger timbre to the Joker, and manages to capture essentially the same spirit of the Joker, that sadistic kind of glint in his eye. And it is interesting to see like how the two meet in this version of the story, and what happens between them. Other than that, I see no compelling reason to really shell out $60 for this game. Talking about gameplay, this is where my big beef comes in, because the game, you're now in Gotham City. You're not in Arkham anymore. You're in the city proper, and the city itself is probably at least twice as large as Arkham City, at least. But the downside to that is you played Arkham City, correct?
Yeah. I didn't beat it, but I played enough to be relatively familiar.
Do you remember how in that game that each building, each street was like really dense? Everything like had a little bit of character going around. Right. No place was like super similar, including the indoor environments too. But like, you know, also the outdoor environments.
So just like a lot of backtracking, a lot of repetitiveness.
No, like the city itself feels very lifeless. In the story, they lead off with the excuse that like it's Christmas Eve night, and the people of Gotham have basically been instructed by the cops to stay indoors because it's a giant blizzard outside, and that's how they get by the fact that there's like nobody walking on the street besides criminals.
Okay,
you know, pulling the same stuff that Arkham City did, but you know, constituting with, because well, it's a giant prison. You're not going to see regular people. And that makes the city feel very lifeless, very dead, and not like less than half of the buildings are really interesting. You'll start flying in the same fashion, you know, gliding through the air, and plenty of the buildings won't have like anything to grab on, so you'll have to like get you know, run around much more often. If you land on top of a building, half the time, like especially if it's inhabited by enemies, it'll just be sort of a lifeless roof. There's really nothing going on up there. And they've got a few new additions to how you traverse the area. They've added in not quick saves.
Save time?
No. Like, you know, you can travel points, like quick travel, fast travel.
Yeah,
fast travel. And they still have the Enigma, Riddler challenges, but all of them feel much less labyrinthian than they did in Arkham City. There were so many like crazy dense puzzles in Arkham City that I was like, no, I just cannot possibly take this on. And you get the same sort of deal in Arkham Origins, but they are all pretty cheap puzzles. Like someone just tacked them on there. And the same goes for all the other side missions, really. You have Anarchy, the Penguin, the Black Mask, and the Mad Hatter. No, not the Mad Hatter. Just Enigma stuff, or Riddler. And essentially all those side missions boil down to go to location X, find this rectangle that stands in for like this, weapons cache or drug cache or like the,
bad guy stuff.
Bad guy collectible. And that's all it is. That's all it is. And some of them you have to like complete puzzles to get through, but they're all really simple puzzles and they're not challenging. They're just boring. It's another tick on a box.
Are there any new playable characters? Because I know that was one of the big things that was cool in Arkham City was that you could play as Catwoman, you could play as Nightwing, and wasn't there also Robin
without spoiling
DLC
it? I'll really just kind of say not really.
Oh, so there is, but they're disappointing. Is that what you're trying to say?
There is, but it's so short and it doesn't become a part of the storyline like Catwoman did in Arkham City.
Yeah, because Catwoman was like 10-15% of like the storyline.
Yeah, a sizable portion. And there's also, speaking of like traveling around the city, they also have since you're going so much farther in this game half the time, they've added an ability when you shoot your grapple hook and click onto a roof or whatever, if you rapidly tap X or whatever the equivalent is on Xbox, you speed up and you can just continue flying without having to like stop, walk, and like jump off a building again, which helps with the larger environment. So I'm glad that that's in there. The fighting is where another big beef comes in because anyone who's played the Arkham games knows that the game had a really tight combat system. It was an innovation. There's a lot of things that these people have taken from that they've innovated and other games have taken from Batman now because they did it so well, being able to counter and moving between enemy. All that in Arkham Origins feels a lot cheaper because I'll screw up in a fight because my like triangle or counter button didn't really work properly. The boss fights aren't terribly interesting. It's just how many big guys do I have to fight? I fought Bane, I fought Croc, Killer Croc, and yeah. And all the villains are pretty lame. Like Copperhead's not that great, I feel. The Joker's really the only interesting villain in this, and that's kind of sad that like we have to go back to the Joker again.
What about gadgets? Any new fun toys?
Other than the hook that like lets you speed up, there's really, you still have like the hacker thing. You get like a flash grenade now. You get a thing that like lets you, or no, that was in there. There's nothing. Not too much new. Same disruptor, same like rope shooter that lets you tight walk. Same disruptor that like lets you kill an enemy's weapon before they like realize it. Not a terrible lot as far as gadgets. And what was I gonna say? The fighting, the gameplay. Presentation wise, like I said, the city it's as good graphically as any other game, and the voice actors do a decent enough job, but the city feels lifeless and the side missions feel much more lifeless. I'm not upset that I've played this game, but I'm not like, oh yeah, I would not recommend Batman Arkham Origins past a rental to anyone.
So what grade would you give it?
Let's do can we move on to like a 1 out of, or like a 10 scale?
Okay.
Because I feel like grades, I don't want to think about grades right now. All right, so on a
more familiar.
On a 1 through 10 scale, 1 meaning that this game is a pile of crap. You should never play it in your life.
And should be buried in the desert.
Buried in the desert. Versus 10, which is
why don't you own it right now?
Yeah, why aren't you out there? I would give this game a 6.5. It's better than average, but it's not Arkham City. It's not innovative. It's not even that solid. It's a solid game, but it's just barely enough to hold my interest. I'm tired at the end of the game, and I don't want to keep playing it. But I mean, it's Batman, and if you like that stuff, go for it.
Yeah. Obviously, there are people who will be more interested in it than others. I mean, someone who is just a huge fan of Batman, I'm sure will obviously love it a lot more. Love that voice.
Where is he?
That's got to be rough on the throat, man.
I don't know, man. All right, guys, this has been Button Mash. You can find us on Twitter, on Facebook, Button Mash BSU. Tweet us, message us on Facebook, pester us with questions. We will answer them as long as they're FCC friendly.
And go ahead and follow us. We do post regular updates and opinion articles and whatnot, pictures, cool stuff, funny stuff, all kinds of stuff. But it's all video game content, so come to us for all the news and information that you need, because we got it.
And now we wait for Thanksgiving.
You'll die
That's a while
badly,
away.
Batman. Making that happen is my personal mission in life.